I had a few things happen this week that kind of caught me a little off guard. I had to say no to some things that I normally have always said yes to. And it really made me realize that I'm letting go of work even before I've gotten to my retirement date. Hi, everyone. I'm Sweet Melba. Thanks for joining me for Sunday on the Porch. Well, I'm 76 days from my retirement date. And as I said, I had a couple things happen this week that I really wasn't expecting yet. I own my own business and I am going to be wrapping that up by June 30th is my retirement date. And a couple things came up this week that normally I would have been involved with. And they had asked that I help with a particular staffing transition and some particular work on a project that, again, I normally help with pretty regularly. And that was it. I realized that I really can't help with these things anymore because I'm leaving. And that transition really needs to really get started now. I'm wrapping up some of my other projects and that's kind of going all on schedule, but these new things that came up wasn't something I was expecting. And I had to pause really because I had to think, well, wait a second. I don't think I can do this. The work that I've done all through my career is really oriented to helping, and in owning my own business and helping my clients with the different projects and activities and training opportunities and things of that nature. And when I realized that, I'm not going to be the person that helps with this, and having to say, I can't do that anymore because I'm not going to be here. That was really different. And I, again, really had to stop for a minute and think before I responded. And it's like, wow, this is different. Maybe with yourself, and if you're looking at retirement or you've already retired, maybe you were that type of person too in the work that you did, the one that was there to work through those activities or help others learn from those activities. And it's a different feeling when you realize that you're not going to be there doing that anymore. So again, maybe you've had a similar experience. If so, I'd love for you to share in the comments if you'd like. But it was really, I think, the first time I really realized that I wasn't going to be doing that anymore. So as this realization came to me, before I responded, the thought I remember having was that, again, I'm not going to be the one helping them walk through this activity or through this project. That they're the ones that are going to need to do that on their own. And I kind of had to kind of craft that response, right? Real time of, let's see if we can over the next couple months, really see how this, adjustment's going to work. But I'm not going to be able to do that. And, also reassuring in that sense to them that they could do it. So it was, there were two components to that. My realization that I'm needing to let go now, but also, finishing up well, so to speak, right? Of encouraging them and letting them know that the work that we've been doing is put them in a position that they can move forward without me leading them through that. And so that was important too. Both the realization and the support to say that while I can't do this, you can do this. And so that was important, to be able to say that. So this was not easy. This was hard. And I think it was the realization on my part that by me retiring and ending my business, in that after all these years, that I'm not going to be the person who's there to help others. That by moving on, I'm letting that go. That I'm not the person that's going to help walk them through an activity. Or, in some respects, sometimes they just need, somebody walking alongside them, right? Or holding their hand through a transition process. And I've enjoyed doing that. And I didn't really realize how quickly that was going to change. And so it was hard to say, that's not me doing that anymore, after all those years. And I think it was a little surprising, to them too. I mean, they knew, right, that I'm retiring, and but when I realized that I need to start that part of the transition now. As I said, I wrapping up my projects, but when this new thing came up, it's like, well, nope, that's not going to be me. And so I think it was hard for me in saying that and realizing that nope, this is not me. But I think it was a little taken aback for them too, to go, oh, that's right. And so we're both moving forward. So for me, this was, looking back at all the work that I've done, and that I really focused my business on being there to help different clients, um, where they were, right? Everybody's at different stages. And I really tailored my work, to be responsive to that. And that's not what I'm going to be doing now. And it's different. It just really felt different at that moment when those opportunities were there. And what I normally would have said was, yeah, you know what, we can work on that. Let's look at a timeline and that kind of thing. And this time, that's not what occurred to me. What occurred to me was, I'm not going to be the one to help do this anymore. And there was a sadness to that, but there was also a, I don't know, relief may be a good word for that too. I'm still kind of processing that. But um, I don't regret my decision, of course, but um, it was also, thankful that I had had all these opportunities all these years to be that person who was there to help. And knowing that after all these years, that's very rewarding, and was always rewarding at the time, but even more so now as I wrap things up. Um, but it also was a, it's like, I'm really moving on to something else. When I really let go and said that's not something I'm going to be able to do, it was also that realization that, yeah, I'm moving on to the next thing. And this is not what I'm going to be, doing from a work standpoint, right? I'm going to be moving on to other activities, and certainly, have finding value in those as well. But so it was kind of a mixed feeling type, experience this week. And I guess like I said, just kind of felt a little taken back by it, but at the same time, also, positive in the sense of, yeah, I really am letting go and moving on to something else. So another important aspect of what happened this week was my awareness that, retirement and letting go of the work that you were doing and, the person that you were and in that work, it doesn't just start on your retirement date. It starts leading up to that. That it's a process and it's an easing into that transition. And I think and I hope that that makes that transition easier. That it's not just, okay, here's my retirement date and now this all starts. That by focusing on these, my 90 days as I started here and now 76 to go, that I hope that I'm doing this in the best way that I can. I feel that I am, in that I'm transitioning this. And so again, this week was just that point at which it really was an awareness that, yeah, you are transitioning and you're saying no and letting go to things that you normally would have done, but you can't do that now. And that was, uh, again, reassuring that I'm moving in the right direction, but also very different, right? So again, I'd love to hear in the comments if you remember being in this situation when you retired. There was some point in that leading up to that retirement date that you realized, wow, it really has changed all of a sudden, and how that felt, and how you continued to move forward with that. And if you're considering retirement, I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this series, my 90 days before my retirement, of, realizing the different aspects of leading up to that period in our life and acknowledging that. There's other components obviously that go into retirement, the financial and, the different activities you're looking forward to. But I think it's important to look at this transition period too, and what we learn in going through that, and how we can make adjustments along the way so that we're feeling, more content or, at peace, so to speak, with the big change that we're making. And so that's why I'm glad to kind of spend this time looking at this. And I don't know what what else might be coming, but this was an important week, for me, and I think I'm going to remember this for a while. So I'm glad to be sharing it. And again, maybe you've had the experience, or maybe it's just a heads up of what you might think about when you decide to retire. And again, recognizing and appreciating that transition period. So onward through the process, and I'm doing a video each week. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope that you find some value in the conversations I have here on the porch on Sunday on the porch, and that, if you're enjoying, the videos, if you'll subscribe and like the videos, I'd love to have you join me and the others, who are watching. And I think by sharing, I think we all benefit. And I've said that a lot in a lot of my videos because I think it's important and I feel that way. And I always look forward to the comments that some of you have left about your experience. So I invite you to do that if you'd like to share. And like I say, we'll keep going through the week to come, and just paying attention to what comes up, how this transition looks of, wrapping up a career and retiring and going on to something new. So again, thanks for joining me. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week here on Sunday on the Porch. Thanks again. I'm Sweet Melba, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.